everybody. Welcome back to Hermanas Unfiltered, the podcast where we dive deep into the real, raw, and unfiltered moments of life. I'm Isela, your resident school counselor.
Hello, everyone, and I'm Casey, your seventh grade English teacher. And today we're tackling a topic that's been a subject of many parent teacher conferences and even dinner table conversations: homeschooling versus public schooling.
Yee.
Hmm.
Touchy subject. That's right, Casey. We're going to explore the good, the bad, and the downright ugly of both educational paths. So, whether you are a parent considering homeschooling or a teacher curious about the other side, stick around.
All right, so let's start with some context, right? Homeschooling has been a significant increase in recent years.
Absolutely, Casey. So, according to the National Home Education Research Institute, there are about 3.7 million homeschool students in the US as of the 2020-2021 school year. Can you believe that?
That's a crazy number. It's insane. You think COVID had I'm assuming COVID had a big
Absolutely.
deal to do with these numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. So, I think that there has been various factors that have driven people to homeschool their kids.
Yeah.
There's a ton of things happening in American schools. We worry about our safety every day. Some parents are not satisfied with academic instruction, or some people just have like different, religious or moral instruction. So they decide to homeschool their kids instead of having them in public school.
Yeah, I definitely see that more so now than ever. I think safety is definitely a big one for a lot of the
Hmm.
parents, whether it's, safety in regards to other students, or maybe they feel that their child is being bullied or mistreated in any form of way, especially in the middle school age. I think that's
Yeah.
definitely one of the bigger concerns
Mhm.
for parents and one of the main reasons why they pull their children out.
Yeah, middle schoolers are brutal, for lack of
Mm-hmm.
better words. I mean, they're just so mean. So mean to each other. I can see that too. It's scary if you have kids going into middle school age.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really scary to have your kids out there exposed to all these other kids that are, like I said, mean for no reason.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Yeah.
that could be a big part of it too.
Absolutely. You have kids who are being taught differently than your kids. You have
Mhm.
kids that are exposed to different things that maybe your kids aren't. And I think that's definitely concerning. I can see that being an issue for a lot of parents.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I see it a lot now as a counselor, kids getting pulled out of nowhere to be homeschooled. And, sometimes the parents don't give you a reason. I mean, they don't have to. At the end of the day, it's their decision.
Hmm.
But I know I have seen a few that have gotten pulled because the kids were getting picked on. And
Hmm.
also, you have a lot of kids that have returned from being homeschooled.
Hmm.
A lot of kids, believe it or not, were still being homeschooled since COVID happened.
Wow.
So, they've been homeschooling the past 4 years, and
Hmm.
it's definitely a hard adjustment when they've been homeschooled for so many years to come back into public education.
Hmm.
Some of those kids have a really hard time adjusting, especially when you're at a large district with a ton of kids when they're used to being home just by themselves with their parents.
Yeah. What do you think the numbers are as far as like the kids who do return back to school? How many of them do you think actually make it towards graduation, and how many do you think of those kids like end up going back into homeschooling?
Man, I don't know. Honestly, I would have to look it up. I mean,
Because I know in our district, we're a way smaller district, which is
mhm.
not something that we don't see a lot of. Maybe up in high school, we'll see kids being pulled out to be homeschooled, but a lot of the kids that are pulled out to be homeschooled in the high school level don't come back.
And I feel like the older they are, the
Hmm.
less attention they require from a
Hmm.
parent. Especially if you get one of those programs, those homeschool programs where they literally just do everything online and their teachers are online.
Yeah.
They don't need to be at school, but it's such a fine line, between
Yeah.
homeschooling and being at school because,
Mhm.
some kids need that interaction and they need to have, you know, their peers with them.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I mean, so far from what I have seen this year, I think maybe let's say I had 5 kids come that were homeschooled.
Mhm.
Maybe 2 out of 5 ended up going back to homeschool.
Wow. That's not bad. I guess it's a 50-50 or a little less,
Yeah, I
but
would I would guess
or a
so,
little more.
yeah.
All right. So, as we are discussing this, let's go ahead and dive into the advantages of homeschooling. What do you think are some of the advantages that you'll see with homeschooling?
So, I think definitely one significant benefit is the ability for you as a parent to provide individualized education to your child.
Yeah.
Parents are able to just tailor the curriculum to their child's learning style and pace. You have a little bit more liberty
Mhm.
to focus more one on one versus being in a classroom
Yeah.
with 30 other kids. It's definitely not the same.
I definitely think that personalized attention can definitely make a huge difference, especially those students who maybe didn't start in a traditional classroom setting, maybe who went to Montessori school and then
Hmm.
transitioning to homeschool may be a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I know you know this, but my kids go to Montessori school.
Mhm.
My daughter has been going since she was 3. My youngest, he was 3, almost 4.
Mhm.
So far, it has worked out fairly well for them, but my oldest,
Mhm.
he had a really hard time in the Montessori setting. That was just not for him, because
Yeah.
the Montessori is they help each other. They're more hands on.
Mhm.
They rely on their peers a whole lot to help them out, and that just wasn't working out for my son. And I feel like he had a tough year, 6th grade,
Mhm.
because he needs structure, what middle school
Yeah.
offers.
Yeah.
And now that he is in 7th grade in middle school, he's actually thriving. He's doing really, really well, actually. All his scores have gone up. He's doing great in sports. His
Yeah.
attitude has completely changed. Like, it used to be him complaining, I don't want to go to school. I hate school. And now he's all for it. So it may work for some kids, just like
Mhm.
homeschool may work for some kids. And some kids need to be in public education.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that this is homeschooling is definitely a wonderful program for those kids who maybe need it. I know there's kids out here who do rodeo, right? In
Mhm.
our small town, and I know some of them who actually are homeschooling for that reason because then they're able to rodeo, they're able to do other things. Some of them play travel team, right?
Mhm.
And whether it's basketball, baseball, or whatnot, a lot of them have, or some, not a lot, but some kids have chosen to do homeschooling for that reason. So I
Mhm.
definitely think that if it's definitely not for everybody, but it definitely does offer that flexibility, which can offer great opportunities for some students. I know I had a student who last year decided that they were going to homeschool, and the reason for that is they were going to work,
Oh.
which is, I know, right? How many kids say that? So they decided to go the online route and then I guess work during the day and then do the online classes because they're self-paced,
Mhm.
and do the online classes in the evening. So that's something definitely, that some students that could, benefit some students who are hoping maybe to save money for college, or maybe they're trying to save money for purchasing a car or helping out their family. That's definitely doable. I mean, it's a big task and it's
Yeah.
a big responsibility, but yeah, and some kids have the drive for it.
Yeah, definitely.
And then let's not forget about the opportunity to incorporate real world experiences when it comes to
Mhm.
homeschooling. You can definitely take trips, do hands on projects that you normally wouldn't be able to do in the classroom. One, we are not always funded for those things, right? We may not be able to take a trip to Washington, D.C. to go visit, the monuments and whatnot. But if you're homeschooling and you built it into your curriculum, that's definitely something that you can do is travel and, learn the history of America.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, according to the NHERI.org, some studies have shown that homeschool students often score 15 to 25% more points above public school students on like any standardized test. So,
Hmm.
different states have different standardized tests. So, if you live in Texas, it would be the STAR test. So, um, that's interesting that they would
Mhm.
score higher. And if I had to guess, it would have to be because of the one-on-one
Mm. Yeah.
instruction. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
I mean, if you're in public school, you know that there are 30 kids in a classroom,
Yeah.
and you as a teacher are not able to provide that one-on-one experience to kids, and it's so sad. And then on top of that,
Yeah.
you have like kids that have behavioral problems and keep
Mhm.
you from providing that the help to the kids that need it. So
Yeah.
I guess if I had to guess, it would be because of that. What do you think it is?
Definitely, it's the one-on-one. Honestly, I'm super surprised of the percentile. In our small town, we do get kids who come from Montessori, or we get kids who have been homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I feel like it varies. I've had kids come to me who are extremely high and who have been to Montessori or have been homeschooled. And I also have had kids who have come to me extremely low from both of those from set those settings. So I think it all has to do with the parent. If the parent is really going to like crack down and take education seriously, then yeah, your kids are going to come to public school a lot higher.
Yeah.
But if you're that type of parent that you're just going to wing it and you're just going to like, oh, we're going to learn how to build a garden today and we're going to spend 2 weeks learning how to build a garden, but they don't know the basics or the fundamentals of reading and writing and math, then they're definitely
Mm-hmm.
going to come to us to public education a lot lower. So honestly, it's all about the teacher.
Yeah. I would be that parent that spends 2 weeks trying to grow a garden and forget about everything else. I could not homeschool my own kids. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
I don't think that's something that I would want to do. Could I do it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Would I want to? No, thank you.
Yeah, no, I don't.
It's a
I
lot of
mean,
pressure. It's
yeah,
it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot. Like you really have to teach that child how to read, write, do math, and you're going to have to be an expert in all grade levels. I don't know how they do it. You'd have to
no
be
thanks.
super disciplined.
Yeah, no thanks. If I was home with my kids homeschooling, I
Mhm.
would probably let us sleep until 10 o'clock in the morning, get up, have brunch, hang out, and then, you know, I would be that teacher that the students kind of gang up and like get them sidetracked talking about other stuff. That would be me with my kids because it'd be like, oh,
Oh
mom,
my
let's go play
goodness.
outside. Sure, let's do it. Let's go have some fun before we get serious.
Right.
So I definitely could not homeschool my kids. So those of you that do homeschool, props to you because it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of work
Mhm.
being an educator to
Mhm.
begin with, but
Yeah.
you doing it with your own kids, I could not. I would lose my shit on them constantly if I
I
was home with
agree.
my kids.
I agree. And that comes to our next topic. Let's talk about the cons of
Ooh.
homeschooling. Because you're right, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Homeschooling comes with a ton of challenges.
Yeah, so I'm gonna touch back on what I said earlier today. I feel like one major concern would be the lack of socialization.
Yeah.
Some kids are really social. I know I have one
Mhm.
that is super social, and she would need somebody to talk to and somebody to hang out with because I'm not that person.
Yeah.
I get overstimulated and I'll be like, sorry, no, I need a break from you. So,
Mhm.
and then I have another kid that can be a complete hermit and stay in his room all day long.
Yeah.
So some kids need socialization. So I feel like
Mhm.
that would be one of the biggest concerns. And we saw that a lot during COVID too. I don't know if you
Yeah.
noticed,
Yeah.
but a lot of kids came back lacking the
Social.
ability to socialize.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we still see. We still see kids, struggling from the lack of socialization.
Mhm.
Um, you'll have kids who, and I don't know if this is COVID or maybe this is technology, but I definitely see kids who struggle, they struggle with social cues. So imagine, living in the world that we live now and being homeschooled and completely having any type of socialization, how many skills they would be lacking. Because schools definitely they provide a built-in social environment where students
Mhm.
have to interact with each other, whether it's working in groups or in pairs. I know in my classroom, we do a lot of group work where my kids, depend on either their table group to complete tasks or they get paired up with a partner and they read to each other.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that that's one of the things that public school definitely has going for them is that they definitely ensure that your children are going to have adequate social interactions. Now, could those social interactions be a little bit more than they bargained for? Absolutely.
So this is what I learned teaching middle school or junior high. A lot of kids don't understand that coming to school every single day kind of prepares them to go into the world,
Mm,
because you have rules, you have expectations, you have tasks to do, you have all these things that you got to abide by, and they don't understand why they have to walk on one side of the hallway when when they're changing classes. I'm like,
mm,
it's like when you drive on
yeah,
one side of the street, you don't drive on wherever, right? You're not
yeah,
cutting everybody when you're driving. I'm like, think about it this way: school is doing more than just giving you an education. It's also getting you ready to go out there in the real world and hold a job and be responsible for yourself. Just like you are responsible for your assignments, you'll be responsible for keeping up whatever assignments they give you at work. Like, we're preparing you to be
yeah.
members of society on top of giving you an education. So I feel like if you're at home and your parents, like you said, you have one of those parents that's kind of lax and is not helping you in that department, those kids are
Mhm.
definitely going to struggle in the real world.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I feel that school also teaches you to work with people that you normally wouldn't work.
Mhm.
You work with kids from, different socioeconomical needs. And once these kids get into the real world and they have to work, they're not going to be working with their friends.
Mhm.
They're going to be working with other people that may have different beliefs or social skills. And it's going to be up to them to navigate that.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
So, and I also feel like if you are a parent that homeschool or if you choose to homeschool, the advantage of it is also that you can join co-ops and extracurricular activities. Like you
Mm,
said, you can become part of a football team or traveling baseball or whatever it is that you want to do.
hmm.
Um, you know, they'll get their social interactions from those extracurricular activities and things like that. So even if they don't go to public school and even if they don't interact with people all day long, at least having those extra things can help them make
Yeah,
up for the difference in social interactions.
that's true. Yeah, maybe they spend all day at home, but if you have them involved in gymnastics and swimming and other little things, you make it a point to give
Mhm.
them those social interactions. Yeah, they definitely won't have deficits when it comes to socializing. So I think that's an easy fix
Yeah.
when it comes to homeschooling. Another challenge that I think is significant is the time commitment for parents. Like it is
Mm.
so time consuming teaching your child at home.
Yeah, most definitely. Parents have to take the role of a teacher, which can be very overwhelming. I mean, we heard it
Hmm.
all the time during COVID. How many parents came out there and were praising teachers and they're like, I don't know how you do this. Everybody loved us during COVID.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody was like, I don't know how to teach my child. I don't know how you do this. And, we went back to school and then they kind of
Everybody
forgot.
forgot.
They
Yeah.
forgot that we were heroes. But yeah, it's definitely overwhelming, especially if you are a parent that has to work and have other
Hmm.
responsibilities. You got to balance going to work or homeschooling your kid or working from home or
Hmm.
it's a lot of Time management.
Yeah. And then think about it. You're going to have kids at home who are going to need to be fed 3 times. So
Mhm.
you're going to have to provide breakfast, you're going to have to provide lunch for them, and then you still got to provide dinner for them. So then you
Mhm.
got to start thinking like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make sure that my kids are eating 3 meals a day, right? And on top of that, I need to make sure that they're getting their education, they're meeting their reading, their math requirements, science and social studies for the day. So it's definitely a big responsibility. It definitely takes major organization. So
Mhm.
if you want to take on homeschooling, you definitely have to be an organized individual.
Yeah, for sure.
And then let's talk about the financial implications that teaching your kids at home, would have. Homeschooling can be costly, um, especially if one parent leaves their job or stays home. That's definitely going to reduce the income that is coming into the house. So that's definitely something to think about. And then some curriculums are expensive. I know I had a friend of mine who she bought her curriculum every year, and I know she spent well over $800 on her curriculum. So,
Wow.
yeah. And I do know that the state of Texas does provide a free curriculum for
Mhm.
those that do want to homeschool, but it is a very fast paced, and your child needs to be reading at grade level. If your child is not reading at grade level, there is no way that they're going to be successful with this program.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if our district provides a curriculum for them if they're gonna homeschool.
Well, not
Um.
the district, the state of Texas does.
Oh, the state of Texas does. Sorry, I thought you
Hmm.
said the district.
No, the state of Texas does. So if you go online, like remember the K-12 schools that were on for a
Mhm.
long time? I think they've
Yeah.
transitioned to a different name. But yeah, they will give anybody free homeschooling material. They will provide not necessarily educators, but they will provide teachers online who kind of go over the material. And it's very briefly. For
Mhm.
the most part, it's very hands on for the parent needs to pretty much teach the material, but they give you, the curriculum for you to follow, which makes it easier than you coming up with your own stuff.
So kinda like when you're a college student and you go on Blackboard or Canva and
Hmm.
just follow the syllabus and do all your reading, do all your testing by yourself, like nobody teaches you, you teach yourself, basically?
Yeah, pretty much. And you'll have
Okay.
workbooks that they provide. They do have like check ins where you go. I think during I can't remember if it was certain days that you go in and you check in and you can kind of ask questions, talk to the teacher. But from what I experienced, it was a hot mess.
Mm.
So, because one of my boys did it, and it was a hot mess. You had the teacher that was in there talking, and then you had kids. There was like an interactive board or something, and then you had kids writing on that. Her like cutting it off. It was like kids typing all sorts of stuff on the keyboard, like, "Hey, what are y'all guys doing? What do you think of this?" And it was just, I was like, "Holy cow, what is
Mm.
going on?" It was like college, but imagine a bunch of little
With
10, 12 year
kids?
olds on there just
Yeah.
going crazy. So yeah, but I don't know, it was maybe the beginning of the year, maybe rules and expectations had not been pushed out. I don't know, but I do remember it was a hot mess.
Well, and then think about it. It's hard enough to manage a classroom as it is in person. I cannot imagine trying to manage a virtual classroom. There's no way.
No, no,
No way. Because how
no.
do you hold kids accountable for anything if they're not there with you?
Exactly. And
So,
yeah, and I think a lot of it is like parent contact. The online teacher has to constantly contact the parents, and
no thing.
yeah, yeah. And I think like they give you time during the day for just phone calls where you're
God.
contacting like, and we're talking about like hundreds of students, right? You're because it's regional, so by region. So I think you have anywhere from like 200 to 300 students
And
a
you have to
year.
contact parents of that many students?
Well, you contact the parents of the kids who are failing or not showing up to class or not performing or participating. Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah. So
No thanks.
this would be like the virtual teaching aspect of that.
Yeah.
But as the parent, you're responsible for your child's education, and it is your responsibility to make sure that they are getting everything needed. And I believe with a K-12, they are still required to take the STAR. And
Mm,
I believe it's like that with any homeschooling, unless it's considered private, right? Like maybe if
yeah.
it's like on the religious end.
Mhm.
I know some homeschooling will get away with not having to do STAR.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but yeah.
All right, Casey. So let's shift a little bit and let's talk about public schooling now.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. Public school definitely offers more of a structured environment as opposed to homeschooling. So you're definitely going to get certified teachers who are experts in their subject for the most part. Unless you're in a,
Allegedly.
right, allegedly, unless you're in like a huge district where they're having problems
Mhm.
hiring certified teachers, which is definitely something that is happening now.
Yeah, I see it a lot. A lot. So, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. Don't knock on it because I know a lot of teachers that are non certified working on a certification and they turn out to be amazing teachers. You know, they have better results with STAR, with MAP. They have overall, they build great relationships with the kids. So, there is a ton of teachers out there that are not certified, but they're working on certification and they turn out to be amazing teachers. So, don't knock on those DOI teachers because some of them are great.
That's true.
Also, Casey, I believe that public schools provide access to resources like science labs, sport teams, art programs,
Mhm.
and any type of specialized services. You know, if you have one of those kids that needs a little bit of extra help or that is in some type of program, they get that in public school.
Yeah. Yeah, and also depends on the district. It depends on the area.
Mm-hmm.
Not all schools are built equal. Like for instance, we are very limited in, especially when it comes to high school, the things that
Mm-hmm.
we offer. I believe our district is slowly catching up, and they have nursing, like where you can get like your nursing cert, like
Mm-hmm.
the yeah.
Like the
Um,
LVN.
Mm-hmm. And then they also offer like the welding certification. Um, and I believe those are, oh, maybe, oh, yeah. And there's an Adobe cert too that we offer. But for the most part, I think our town is very limited in the things that they offer. But I know like other schools, they have a swimming team
Mm-hmm.
and they have soccer teams. We don't have soccer teams yet. Maybe one day. But yeah, we're definitely limited. But yeah, if you want your child to go to a great school, there are definitely some great public schools out there. You just got to look for them.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like you said, you know, the opportunities that they offer now with dual credit class and the certifications, like I know we didn't have that when we were in high
Mm-mm.
school.
Oh my gosh, how
I
nice
wish
would
we
that have
would
been?
have, you know,
Mm-hmm.
now like my niece graduated, let's see, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, COVID year. She graduated COVID year, so 2020, so almost 5 years ago. And there were so many kids in her class that graduated with an associate from high
Wow.
school. So
Oh, how
those are
nice.
great opportunities because I don't believe you have to pay, or if you do have to pay for those college classes, it is nowhere near compared to what you would
Mm-hmm.
pay if you were out of high school already. So that alone,
Mm-hmm.
those are such great opportunities. You know, I know here in our town we have a high school that is dedicated to technical careers, and you have so many kids that graduate like ready to go into the workforce at 18 years old and they're
Yeah.
making tons of money as they graduate. So that is a great advantage of some public schools depending on the
Yeah.
area where you live.
Yeah, definitely. And then again, as we mentioned earlier, the social aspect is definitely a significant benefit. Students, they learn to navigate the diverse, social situations, which is something that they definitely encounter from middle school all the way to high school, which can definitely prepare them for the real world. It goes back to them having the ability to work with people that they normally wouldn't associate with.
Mhm.
And, it teaches them, how to work in difficult situations. Or, maybe have a little bit of empathy for people that, that have different belief systems than them.
Yeah, for sure. However,
Dun dun
it don't
dun.
yeah, we know this. Public schools aren't without their drawbacks.
Yeah.
And God almighty, do they have drawbacks?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I definitely think that one of the biggest things is class sizes. That
Mm.
is probably one of the biggest challenges that we encounter every year
Yeah.
is the class size. And I know, we're a small town and we don't have nearly as big classes as you guys do. I think my biggest class this year is maybe 21, and that to me is
Oh,
huge.
that sounds like a dream.
I'm
Hmm.
like, and that to me feels huge, but like we used to have classes of 10, of 15, 15 being probably the most perfect number when it comes to public teaching. But our numbers are definitely decreasing, so our class sizes are definitely increasing. Um, but yeah, I can't imagine having 35 students in a classroom.
You definitely could. So I
Mm,
know
mm,
what I have
mm,
seen
mm,
now this year, we have our GT teacher, honors
mhm.
teacher. I believe her biggest class size is 30, 36.
Wow.
And then I know that there are other, like in higher grade levels, 7th and 8th grade, are honors GT teachers. I think there's one of them that has 42 kids in her class.
Oh my gosh, bless her heart.
42 kids.
Mm,
And it's just
mm,
her. She doesn't have an 8 because she's honors.
wow.
So I guess the advantage of having an honors class is that those students want to learn. They want to be
Yeah.
there. They make good grades. They do their work. But I could not imagine. I mean, I know when I
Mm,
was teaching our science department, they also had large numbers like that in
mhm.
the high 30s. Some
Ooh,
of them had past 40 students.
wow.
I had, to me, there were large classes. I'm in your boat. I was a Spanish teacher, high school credit. So my classes, some of them weren't larger than 25 kids,
Yeah,
which to me that was high
yeah.
because not everybody takes Spanish in junior high. But
Mhm.
again, one of the advantages of having a high school credit class is that you get the kids that want to do it, that are working hard to get that credit, and they're
Mm,
not going to mess around in class. So for the
that's true.
most part, it was very controlled, and the
Mhm.
kids were they were good kids. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but class size is,
Mhm.
and I feel like as time goes by, the numbers just get higher and higher and
I
higher.
agree. I agree. I think it's become normalized a little bit. The more students that we can fit in the classroom, the better,
Mhm.
right? So that we can, I don't know, I guess the less people you have to hire, right? The more students you can fit with one teacher, the less teachers you're going to need.
Mhm.
So I guess it's definitely a way for the district to save money or to make money stretch a little bit further. But then it comes at the cost of, the students. The students are the ones who are suffering because they're not able to concentrate because you have large class sizes, or you have, different dynamics. You have a classroom full of alphas and they're trying to take over the classroom, and it's,
Mhm.
crazy and insane, and then it just reduces the amount of learning that is being done in the classroom. So dynamics, having large groups like that, definitely play a role in your child's education.
For sure. It could affect it greatly, especially when you have those kids with behavioral problems that,
Hmm.
and then the sad thing about it is that most kids with behavioral problems
Hmm.
follow each other throughout the
Oh
day.
yeah.
So they have a lot of the same classes together, and they are a constant disruptance to every class that they go to, basically, is what it comes down to. So another thing that can be bad about public education is there is less flexibility in the curriculum, which may not cater to every student's learning style, because if you're stuck trying to teach something a certain way, not everybody learns the same.
I definitely agree with that. I think one of my hardest years was when I had a diverse, pop in my classroom, which was when I had a high SPED population. It was really hard to teach everyone at their different levels and meet their needs and really deliver the material to where they were able to understand it. So, for those of you who aren't in education, imagining having, I don't know, 20 different personality types in one setting and then having to cater to everybody's needs. It's really hard to do. So
Mhm.
the bigger the class, the harder it is to make sure that everybody is getting the correct instruction. And then let's not forget that the more kids you have in a classroom, the more likely there could be bullying, right? Which can definitely have a significant impact on the child's well being and academic performance, which is something that you definitely see in public education.
100%. Because they go hand in hand. If a child is being bullied,
Mm-hmm.
more than likely it's going to affect their academic performance because they're not
Yeah.
happy at school. So therefore, they're not going to
Mhm.
put any effort into their schoolwork. So that's a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest problems besides large class sizes is definitely the bullying. And now with social media, I think they're a little bit more sneaky about it when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
bullying, and a lot of the times parents don't even know or teachers don't know that it's happening because it's also very hush hush and it's all on social media, and we're not on social media. Like I don't have my kids, my students on Snap or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they do snap things that, you know maybe are taunting other students or bullying other students, we may have no idea until somebody fesses up.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of bullying,
Mhm.
we had this guy come over to speak to our kids. I want to say 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
Um, his name is Chris. You'll find him under Chris in the classroom. Have you heard of him?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so look him up when you get a chance.
Okay, I'm
He
gonna look him
was
up right now.
very, very big on us stop using the word bully or
Hmm.
bullying.
I can see that.
And his main reason was he said we throw it around so easily now that these kids take anything as an act of bullying. And then, you cannot, as an adult, as a teacher, you cannot, advocate for kids if they're saying that you're being bullied, but in all reality,
Mm.
all that happened was some kid made a mean face at you and now you're saying that
Mhm.
you're being bullied, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um I'm not saying that bullying doesn't happen because it definitely does. I have seen it, but I feel like because there are so many kids, it can also be taken out of context. Like I said, kids now, for any little thing that they do to
Mhm.
each other, oh, miss, he's bullying me. When in all
Mhm.
reality, it was just,
Yeah,
you
just
can't
something
borrow my pencil.
silly.
Yeah, something,
Mhm.
something small. So, but yeah, definitely there is bullying. That's like I said, that's my biggest fear with kids going into middle school. I would hate for something to happen and for my kids
Mhm.
to lose their spark and lose who they are because they are being taunted so much that they get to a point where they just don't want to be at school anymore. That is
Yeah.
definitely my biggest fear.
Absolutely. With I think as educators, I think we definitely see the ins and outs of bullying. We definitely see how bullying affects students, how it affects who they become essentially.
Mhm.
And I think it's scary because you definitely don't want that to happen to your child. But I think that's when I think us as educators, the only thing we can do is keep an eye on everybody and then teach them camaraderie, I think
Mhm.
that's super important when it comes to public education. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be implemented in the classroom is teaching them that, hey, you guys are going to spend the next whatever many years together. It's definitely important for you guys to respect each other, to protect each other, to make sure that you guys work as a unit. Um, and I think it goes back to those team building exercises. Just like they make us
Mhm.
do those team building exercises, I think it's important for them to incorporate those into the classroom because kids need to understand that we're all human and the words that we say do have an effect on another person. So I think it comes back to the school and just teaching the kids what's right from wrong because some of these kids aren't being taught at home, right? Um, Maybe some of these kids are being mistreated and then they become the aggressor themselves.
I agree, Casey. All right, so let's talk about considerations when it comes to homeschooling, right? So, choosing between homeschooling and public schooling, it's a deeply personal decision.
Yeah, I think it definitely depends on the child's needs, the family's resources, and the educational philosophy. I know a lot of parents who maybe want a more Bible based type of education will definitely want to, pull their kids from regular school. So I think it definitely, it's all up to the parents and what works best for their family.
Yeah, like I said before, some families thrive in homeschooling while others just find that public education is a better fit for them. So it just depends on, like Casey said, on your child's needs, on your availability, how much you can afford, or how much
Mhm.
time you are able to dedicate to homeschooling your kids.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely important to, weigh the pros and the cons and consider what's best for your child's unique situation. I think if, my child were being bullied or they were being harassed and there wasn't another alternative, homeschooling would definitely be something that I would totally consider. Or maybe I felt like I wanted a more Bible based curriculum, then definitely homeschooling totally makes sense. Or maybe I have a child who, for their sake, I need to pull them back, because I feel like they're not thriving in a public environment, then definitely if I feel like homeschooling is going to be better for them, then homeschooling it would be. So you definitely have to weigh the pros and the cons, what's going to be best for you, what's going to be best for your family.
Yeah, for sure. Or like I said earlier, if you're one of those families that likes to travel, you own a bus or a travel trailer and you just want to take
Mhm.
your kids everywhere around the world or whatnot,
Mhm.
homeschooling is what's best for you. If your child belongs to a traveling team and you want to dedicate your time to have your child compete in sports, then definitely homeschooling. Because how many times do you see kids that are absent a whole lot
Mhm.
because they do some type of travel sport and they're gone like
Yeah.
2, 3 times a week because they're doing any type of extracurricular. So it's definitely a very, very personal choice
Mhm.
to the parent and to the kid as well. I mean, if you have older kids that are able to decide, I've seen that a lot too. Kids that their parents want to homeschool them and they don't want to be homeschooled. They want to be at school with their friends and they want to have that interaction with others. So,
Mhm.
it's a lot to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think if your child is at an age where they can definitely tell you what they want, I definitely think that you should make them a part of the decision making because your child is definitely going to give you input on what's going to be best for them. And I've seen homeschool be completely successful, and I've seen students who have gone on to do great things. And then I've seen homeschooling where it's been a disaster, and I have kids who come to me and they're reading at a first grade level and they should be reading at a seventh grade level.
Mhm.
So you definitely got to ask yourself, is this something that I'm capable of doing for my child? Am I really going to give them, the best education? And I think once you've kind of, put the pros and the cons and whatever it is you choose, As long as you know your child is going to get top-notch education, then that's where you go. That's it's I think it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I agree. And then also being able to recognize if you're not cutting it as
Mhm.
homeschooling your kids and your child is not progressing, you as a parent have to be able to recognize that, hey, it's time to send my child back to public school and have somebody else step in and help me for my child to be successful. But anyway, Casey, that pretty much wraps up our discussion on homeschooling versus public schooling.
Yes, we definitely hope that we were able to provide you with some valuable insight and maybe helped you become a little bit more informed, about homeschooling versus public education.
Yes, and remember that there is not one size fits all answer. So again, this is your decision, what works best for you and your family.
Just a reminder that you can follow us on Instagram at Hermanas underscore unfiltered or on TikTok at Hermanas underscore pod, or you can email us with any questions or suggestions at hermanasunfiltered at gmail.com.
And don't forget about YouTube. If you want to watch us, head over to YouTube and search for Hermanas Unfiltered podcast. Make sure that you follow us and give us a like on our videos.
Yes, so thanks for tuning in to Hermanas Unfiltered.
Until next time, stay unfiltered. Bye.
Bye.